Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman and Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, The Wickoff Group.
Hello, my name is Michael Stoller. So we're here in the summer of 2010. Interest rates are all the way down, treasury bills are all the way down, the market goes up, goes down, the economy is in a mixed position. So today, for the final show of my 9th season, I've assembled a group of real estate business people to provide their insight on the state of the market, the economy and the market. My guests today include Charles Crobart, Chairman, CEO of Kilroy Architectural Windows, New York's window company. Alan Goldman, President of SJP Residential. John Catsimatidis, Chairman of the Red Apple Group. And last but definitely never least, my good friend, my benefactor from day one, 9 years ago when I started radio, Jim Orphanides, President of Centurion Holdings. Since, Jim, you are the quietest guy in this group, how do you see the world today? You know, we were talking prior to the show that the economy is a little difficult. We don't know what's going on. And then I'm going to have John which he made a great comment. What do you see?
Michael, the economy is at the floor. It has not climbed out. It is not on a rebound.
Are you saying it's worse than the end of 2008 and 2009?
It's more of the same. There's a little glimmer here, a little glimmer there. People are more active perhaps today, but our business is growing. Our people rehiring jobs. I heard just the other day, Wall Street is the only place that hired in greater New York, 7,000 jobs. If I'm not mistaken, in 2008, I think we lost 300,000 financial service jobs. We replaced them with 7,000. I don't know if that's what I would call a promising picture. It's better than not hiring at all, but there's still a lot of room to go.
John, you know, you were saying, I don't want to say what you said. Why don't you tell us your thought? You were talking about financially, personally, and other things, and how you look at the world today. I mean, you're in the grocery business, you're in the real estate business, you're in the oil business.
Well, I have a lot of concern, more concern today than I've ever had my entire life. I used to be a great optimist. I used to think that the sun is going to shine for the rest of the century. But I have a lot of concern that we can go into a recession that could be a Japanese recession and last for 15 years.
Now, but you said prior when we were in the green room, you mentioned that fortunately, financially, you're probably the strongest that you've been in your lifetime, but you're more cautious than ever before.
Well, like I said to you before, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, if I had
X dollars.
X dollars around, I felt rich. I didn't mind spending it because I knew there's more coming in. I'll refinance, do this, do that. But I have 20 times X today, and I'm concerned. And it's almost like what the corporations are doing is hoarding cash. You don't want to spend it because you don't know what tomorrow may bring. And unfortunately, a lot of people have that opinion. That's why nothing is turning, nothing is being bought, nothing sold. It's harder.
Now, Alan, you're a developer, and the term developer sometimes gives that optimistic. You're optimistic because you want to develop and you want to build the next project. And in our meetings and discussions, you've said it's hard for you to even find anything that makes sense or works
Well, I think
out
the
there.
economics have become a lot more difficult to be able to justify projects. Even though we look long term, we have to make decisions that don't bear any fruit for 4 or 5 years sometimes into the future. So we have to really have a level of confidence, which I think, unfortunately, in the economy is missing at many levels. Like John just said, corporations are hoarding cash. Individuals at the working level worry about their jobs. I mean, right now you look at unemployment, underemployment, and those who've decided they don't even want to pursue employment. We're up close to 20%. 20% in terms of unemployment or underemployment leads people to fear that they may be next. And while things are a little better than they were a year ago, I think we're going to see anemic growth at best during the next several years. So it's difficult to justify some development programs unless they really show the kind of returns that are substantial.
Charles, Kilroy has been in the window business since 1946. 2000, as you and I said, 2007 was a great year. 2008 started off okay. 2009 was an abortion. How do you see 2010? What do you see people doing? I know you're working on the Empire State Building and other projects. Do you see developers, do you see owners pushing more deals today?
I think the general tenor of the first 3 comments I agree with. I think there's a lack of confidence right now. There is hoarding. We are primarily involved more in the retrofit replacement market than new construction. New construction is virtually as quiet as it's been for 10 years. I think everybody would agree. Projects that were started before the decline are finishing up, very nervously finishing up. A lot of buildings are finishing and they're just not selling out. In the replacement market, whereas in the movie Field of Dreams, they say build it and they will come, nobody's speculating anymore. Property owners that own commercial properties, instead of saying I'm going to change the windows in the entire building, they wait until they have a floor available for lease. They get a price to replace the windows and they'll say, we'll let you know. Once they have the lease in place, they'll say, go ahead, get them in real quick. But they won't say, let's put them in now because that will motivate a new buyer.
Now, what about the environmental? The week before I had the show with all of these young real estate executives. Everybody talks about green, environmentally. I mean, what's happening? And I'd like to pose that to you. You're a developer. You just did the Platinum, which is like a green building. I mean, Charles first, and then Alan.
Well, there's certainly a new initiative in the green movement. We just completed a job. I think it was the first green building in the Lower East Side, the Village Green on 11th Street. Alpha Development did that, and they've basically sold out. And I spoke to one of the 2 principals there, Mike Naiman, recently, and I said, how much more did it cost you to get, they were gold certified. And he said, it really didn't cost us more than our own planning and time. It really didn't cost us more to buy out the products. It only involved more thought process and planning in terms of how we were going to buy out the project. I'd be interested to hear from the developers here if
You
feel
just
the same way.
finished the building in Myrtle Avenue in downtown Brooklyn, across from Metrotech. Was green a big concern?
That wasn't a big concern. It was how to bring it in for the lowest possible price and still make it look good.
So green didn't really have an environmental. If it was green, it would be okay. Now, what about you on the
No,
platinum?
we think that green is of importance to a number of prospective buyers, renters, and I think some developers have been very successful in recognizing that early on. We ourselves have just completed a 1 million square foot office building that's platinum gold at 11 Times Square, and it's been very well received in part because of its concerns and about being green, and we're LEED certified to recognize the importance of that.
Do you feel it cost you a lot more to achieve that level?
I don't think a lot more because we would have built, and we do build, to a high level of quality, and we're conscientious in terms of elements that are not only good for us, good for our tenants in terms of recognizing the benefits of being green.
Now, John and Jim, this is really posed to you. Both of you, you know, Centurion owns 17 companies, and your holding company owns interest.
We advise 17
companies
and have interest in 17 companies.
Now, John, you have interest in many companies. People come to you all the time, to both of you, and also to Alan and Charles to a level, and they say, you know, I have a thought, maybe I want to go into a new business, or I want to go into a new endeavor. What have you been seeing? Are there still the entrepreneurs, the internet entrepreneurs, or, you know, what are you seeing out there in today?
There's a lot of opportunities. People come to us every day or every other day, and we're very careful what we do. We may look at 50 deals and do one.
But what kind of deal would you do today? You know, especially with what Jim was saying, with the general consensus of the economy being a little shaky. You can't do deals in certain New York and New Jersey because you're worried about the government changing the rules in the middle, you know, tax rules and other things. What kind of deal would you do?
Well, we're not necessarily doing deals.
What type of business do you think is, if you were going to put money out or do something, what would you see?
We're still looking at energy deals, and we're looking at them outside the United States.
Outside the U.S. James, what do you see?
Well, we have a total spectrum of different kinds of businesses. But just to go to the point, back to the green initiative, I think that the country needs to address what is going to be. It's a silent demand, but it's nevertheless a demand. Ask your children or your grandchildren what they think about the environment and how they want to make sure that we are going to give nature a chance to help us enjoy the fruits of this beautiful earth that we all use and share. We all breathe the air. We have to make sure there's a quality of air. We all need water. We have to make sure there's an ample supply of good water for all of us to use, and that's the whole world. It's not just a New York problem or a U.S. problem or a New York State problem. It's a world problem. We have a great breadbasket. We have to make sure that there's a real issue. Green is one of the ways in which we will be focused on making sure we do not abuse Mother Nature and we do not abuse the earth. We can't just keep wrecking things, and we never ask nature for permission to deforest an area, although that sometimes can be good because it gives nature a chance to rebirth itself. But there are a lot of things we should be doing. For landlords in the real estate business, I would say, talk to your customers, talk to your consumers. If you can save them $2 on energy costs by just creating some initiatives in greening your building a little bit better than it is today, you know how much money that would translate in terms of savings, and why it may just be enough to keep people from wanting to leave New York City the next time we have a tax increase.
Which relates to you. I mean, you just finished the windows. I mean, my joke is that you're like the window man of Madison Square Park. I mean, you did the Flatiron building. You just did 200, the old Toy Center. They don't call it the Toy Center now, which is, but what happened over there? I mean, the fact, was it, they did all the windows, right?
200 Fifth Avenue, L&L Holdings. They had a very successful project over there. Half of the building was already committed. I think Gray Advertising that became the new world headquarters.
Now, Tiffany's also just moved in there.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Tiffany's is taking space, and they're moving, and people are looking at alternatives. You know, they're looking to save energy, like Jim is saying, and people are looking, you know, to.
However, that deal was started a bit before at the point of incipient decline of the previous period. I think they're, you know, I know that some of the people up there, and they're very good people. And I don't know if they're actively pursuing any other deals right now.
Alan, you and I were speaking that people still have this irrational exuberance that they think land or development sites are worth more money than they're worth, in our opinion. You and I are perhaps the conservative, like Jim and John. What do you? I mean,
Well,
and then people are asking for these prices.
I think we have, right at this moment in 2010, a supply-demand imbalance, particularly when it comes to product being available for sale in the real estate market. I mean, you have enormous sums of money that have been raised by opportunity funds, distressed debt firms, and they're looking for a home. They're looking to place money, otherwise they're going to have to return it to their investors. So whatever few properties or notes or mortgage that are being offered, they're being bid up to some levels that don't necessarily work for today's numbers. So they look at the future. They're talking about, well, in 3 to 5 years, this will make sense in terms of a return on investment. Perhaps now the cap rates are abnormally low, recognizing the conditions we're in. But I believe it's as much a supply-demand imbalance.
Now, John, you own this property in downtown Brooklyn for what, 25, 30 years?
25 years.
25 years. Now, the apartments are completed right now. Who's moving to those apartments? Are these people who have been priced out of Manhattan, or are they?
It costs half price to live in Brooklyn than in Manhattan. So I see people from Wall Street, students from that downtown area, people that work in Metrotech.
Now, what about
Remember, it's only 3 miles from as the bird flies to downtown Manhattan. It's not like
I'm not Jim,
Pennsylvania.
Look, for a Queens boy, I'm not saying anything. I mean, Charles still has his operation in Brooklyn. It's been there all this time. My question about downtown Brooklyn and is the question of the urbanization that there's not enough retail in the Metrotech area. I mean, there's retail going Atlantic Yards, going uptown to Atlantic Terminal. But if you want to go to the grocery or something else, you have to go a mile away, a mile and a half. It's it's not like living in New Jersey. It's a different case. Living in Manhattan, it's a different matter.
Well, retail can't come first. First, you get the residents, and then slowly retail moves in.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
That's a very good point.
Now, you're in the retail business. Yeah, I mean, how many grocery stores do you have?
30.
How do you see people's shopping habits today in the grocery in 2010 compared people?
Year to year from last year, they're being more careful. Same store sales are a little bit down, and they're just being more careful what they're buying.
Now, with the portfolio of companies, have you looked at retail? I mean,
No, we have not. We have
well,
not.
why people have to buy, people have to shop, people have to have housing. Why not?
Well, there are a lot of business opportunities. Retail is just one segment. It would be like asking, do I want to look at airline industry? I mean, why would I want to look at the airline industry? They can't afford the planes, they can't afford the personnel, they can't afford the fuel. I mean, is there any wonder why all the airline industry is pretty much at the same? They're all the same. They're all, and at best, mediocre service is what they give their customers, and they get joy out of abusing their customers. Look at the case by case. Come on, let's be frank about it. Retail is collecting a premium in a store, and quite honestly, I'd be worried, and they should be worried. They have old legacy models. There's a lot more people buying on the internet. There's a lot more people that are being more discerning about the way they shop. And if they're going to look for value and they're going to be conservative today, they're going to wonder about whether they're paying for the real estate cost of that at Lord & Taylor, let's say, or a Macy's or a Bloomingdale's.
But I'm going to ask the same question to you. People can buy windows from Lowe's, Home Depot. I mean, they don't have to go to Kilroy or to
anything they would buy there would be a stock size, and in the commercial end of the business, everything's custom made. So I mean, it just doesn't work that way. And structurally, you can't put one of those windows on the 40th floor of a building. It's not structurally going to be satisfactory or
now,
meet code.
What about you just finished the building? You're looking at sites. You're building. Are construction costs down in 2010?
Well, certainly compared to where they were in 2007, 2008,
Yes.
they're definitely down. Are they down reflecting how much construction is contracted? Probably not. I mean, work rules together with some other concessions have helped. Everything has moved down. Even the price of land has moved down. I would say the only thing that's worked against us in moving ahead are taxes. Property taxes now in Manhattan on a new rental property are equal to 31% of gross revenue. It's a rate that just makes it nearly impossible to move forward on a new project.
Now, this is a good example. When you started the construction on your property in Metrotech, you were able to get 25-year tax phase-in on taxes. Today, if you built on your other site next to it, unless you built the 20% affordable, you would be paying full taxes like Alan's saying.
That's correct. So we're really studying on what we're going to do. We're considering maybe putting just commercial property.
Now, you also own property in Coney Island. What's your
Yes.
thought about Coney Island?
I think you go to Coney Island on a sunny day, you fall in love.
And if it's not a
I
sunny
think
day?
eventually it'll be condo.
You do. Now, Charles, you've been in, what do we call it, Clinton Hill? I mean,
Clinton Hill.
Clinton Hill. I mean, when you and I were going to college in downtown Brooklyn, you know, Clinton Hill was a rough neighborhood.
It's a wonderful neighborhood now.
Yeah, but someone said they're in East New York, Brownsville. There are no bad neighborhoods in New York. Do you believe that comment in 2010?
I don't know how to answer that, really.
Yeah,
I
but-
will tell
but
you
There's
this.
no bad part of New York. New York is still New York. There are going to be always issues of some crime. That's going to be the case anywhere in the world. There's crime.
I'm
In terms
sa- you know,
of people
people-
taking care of their properties, doing the best they can to make them real homes, I think you can take a look and drive around any borough in New York today, including the Bronx, which has been maligned for a lot of years, and you will see people working hard to take care of their
Now,
properties.
I have two guys over
because
here
they care.
who have dual residence. You and Mr. Goldman are New York and New Jersey.
Well, I'm New Jersey.
No, I know. So is he. He really plays New Jersey also.
And we pay a lot of real estate taxes in New Jersey, trust me.
How did the two of you look at? I mean, you got a new governor, Christie, over there. You have a situation, and on a show that I had a couple of weeks ago, they were saying to me that Governor Rendell in Pennsylvania, if he had a company, said that they'll relocate 20 employees, he'll go to visit them. He is really pro-business, pro-activity. This guy is
a good
really
guy.
jumping
He
and,
is,
and
he
working hard. And, you know, look what we see in the New York situation, and, you know, New Jersey's getting...
That's the things that we do have to worry about. We can't just put the burden on the consumer and keep taxing everybody the way we are taxing them and expecting everybody to just pay their share or their freight. You gotta want to incentivize people to want to stay here. To be able to afford to live where you work is a luxury, and instead of having people commuting. When I moved to New Jersey 37 years ago actually, I moved to drive to where I could afford. I went to Exit 8 on the New Jersey Turnpike, which is the first place I could afford, because I couldn't afford to live in New York City. I couldn't afford to live around here.
But here's an interesting point, and I brought it up on the New Jersey show, and I think it's going to be a problem if New York City does this. New Jersey, there's no sales tax on retail, on clothing.
Right.
So you can go to New Jersey, you go over the bridge, and you don't pay sales tax. New York City today, under $110, you have the same situation. But if you go to Nassau County or Suffolk County, you know, where you go to
Or Westchester.
or Westchester, you're paying 9%. You know,
That's why you see a lot of cars going to New Jersey to shop at our malls.
Well, you have this tax dislocation, but you know, it looks like the effort now is just to put additional burden on the taxpayers.
That's right.
Without looking at what the long-term consequences are. You know, we have government by crisis. A crisis brings about changes. So now everyone has become conscious of the increasing debt levels, the burdens that government is going to have to face. People even talk about whether or not there'll be a bankruptcy first in California, some kind of, you know, federal bailout.
It's like crisis management.
And it's always been crisis management rather than looking at where we're really going to be 5 and 10 years from now and planning accordingly.
So if you were looking at your crystal ball for 2011, all of you, how would you see the crystal ball by Mr. Orphanides in 2011?
Well, this is our third year, starting July 1st of this recession by my calendar. I'd say 2011 will be a continuation, which I am disappointed to say. I was hoping it would be pretty much over by now, but I don't see the turn yet. We'll all know it when it happens, and we'll all see it. But I want to leave a message. If today I was 30 years younger and I had to start all over again, and I was going to try to build a business, I would go back and try to do it the same way I always did. Work as hard as you can work. Take every shot you can, take every opportunity that comes your way, and try to climb as high as you can. That's the motivational message, because it's still going to matter. The entrepreneurial spirit is what makes America great. Let's make sure we don't kill that. Let's keep that one alive.
A guy who I've known for many years who's an entrepreneur, how do you see 2011?
I see more of the same. I don't see a reason for us to come out of it in 2011. I think interest rates will remain low. But somewhere along the line, 2013, 14, we have to have a massive inflation.
Alan?
Well, I believe 2011 is going to be a year of anemic growth. We'll have more of the same of what we've had now. I think the struggle in terms of unemployment levels that are really difficult to draw down is a reflection in part that the monies that were spent, the $787 billion stimulus program, was money poorly spent. I think the money should have been spent, but structurally it didn't accomplish a great deal, and it just put off the problems.
Last but not least, my friend Charles.
Well, I'm going to echo some of the comments. I see this year has been better certainly than last year. But until, everything's connected, and we all know that. Until the lending window opens up, until the tax burden possibly gets released or relieved, until the government starts realizing, especially in New York State and New York City, that Wall Street is the engine of New York City and not the bad boy that needs to be chastised and shackled.
Stop bashing Wall Street already.
That's the engine that drives this economy in New York City.
I'd like to say
that's where it's got to start.
I love my final show of the 9th season. I know that I'll see all of you come back in September in the 10th season. I'd like to thank Charles Crowbart, Alan Goldman, John Castamatidis, and Jim Orphanides. See you in September.
Major funding for this program is made possible by grants from Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Perfect Building Maintenance, New York Community Bank, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Inc., New York's window company, Capital One Bank, Greenberg Traurig, LLP. Additional funding for this program is made possible by grants from AVR Realty Company, LLC, Briarwood Organization, Beechwood Organization, C.B. Richard Ellis, Cushman & Wakefield, Dime Savings Bank of Williamsburg, Hal Fettner, Durst Fettner Residential, First American Title Insurance Company of New York, F.J. Siami Construction, Friedman LLP, Gemini Real Estate Advisors LLC, Investors Savings Bank, Jack Jaffa and Associates Real Estate Consultants, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Madison Realty Capital, Massey Knackle Realty Services, M&T Bank, Markham LLP, Marcus and Millichap Real Estate Investment Services, Meridian Capital Group, The Moynihan Group, Margolin Weiner and Evans LLP, Newmark Knight Frank, Orphanides and Associates, SJP Properties, Sterling and Sterling Inc., Stonehenge Partners, Urban American, The Wickoff Group.